Jobs kept coming back. Jobs was definitely a recurrent theme throughout the speech, and we knew it would be. I mean, today it has to be. You know, he spoke briefly about North Korea. There was not a lot on that.
No, that was quick. You know, we knew he was going to talk about that because of the events that happened today and transpired. He couldn't ignore it. He mentioned it, and then he moved on, and then he mentioned Iran and Russia and some international, events that are going on and countries that we have to deal with. But again, it was pretty quick. He pretty much mentioned it and moved on.
What did you think of the speech overall? What did you think about, what were your impressions as far as the number of applause breaks that we had here, and just the overall reception that he seemed to have during the speech from Congress?
You know, I thought it was a good speech because he focused on the economy. I think, you know, if you want to engage with the public and tap that sentiment, I think that's what really people want. They want to talk about the economy. I think, you know, many of us are fatigued. It's been a long road, and we want to hear where this country is going. You know, wages have been stagnant, unemployment has been high. I think for the public, they want to know where we're going. You know, he referenced gas prices, you know, and getting off, you know, our reliance on fuel, and he tied, you know, even in talking about other countries, he talked about, you know, the United States not being so reliant on fuels and gas and that sort of thing. So it even came back to the economy when he talked about that.
Right. He did talk about education, preschool education, making it affordable. He wanted to work with states to make preschool education affordable for everyone, saying that it will save Americans in the long run, in the long haul, because graduation rates increase with preschool education, crime goes down, teen pregnancy goes down, so it's a win-win for everyone if we can get there. He has to work with the states to get there, though.
He
Often
does.
that's not so easy. That's, again, there was sort of a wish list that we have here tonight.
That's right. There's a long wish list, but we talk about pre-K. He talked about every dollar invested saves $7 later on. We generally know that from studies that pre-K is important to a child's development, and it does save you money long run. You know, good pre-K and daycare, it's very important. He did mention that. He talked about redesigning high schools. That was interesting, focusing on science and technology and math. You know, that was interesting. And again, he brought that back to the economy, you know, talking about creating jobs for the future. You know, these types of jobs are where, you know, this type of training is where the jobs are,
right,
you know, going forward.
Right. He talked about Afghanistan at the beginning. He talked about Afghanistan at the end. By the end of next year, our war in Afghanistan will be over. Loud applause. The end of 2014.
Yes, yes. You know, and then he did announce the withdrawal of troops, about, you know, half the troops that are there, and the end of Al-Qaeda as we know it.
Right. And then we got into gun violence at the very end.
Yes, yes. You know, and again, as we said before, you know, that was a very emotional way to end his speech, you know, and we were waiting for him to talk about that. We didn't know if it was going to come in the beginning, the middle, you know, and try and kind of drum up the excitement, but he did it at the end. It seemed to work.
And he went out very strong with that. And like you said, referencing the specifics, referencing Newtown, he was very front and center in the days right after Newtown, going there, speaking to the families just days after that tragedy that touched so many people in so many ways that people haven't really been touched since 9/11.
That's right.
You know, and you yourself live in Connecticut.
I do. I don't live all that far from Newtown, and I was up there after the tragedy, and I remember, you know, certainly the news of the event, you know, it was quite emotional, and it affected many of us. But, you know, during a trip up there, on the day the president went up there, and talking to some of the people of that town, it was, you know, it was very emotional, and, you know, an emotional experience. And what struck me is, you know, there's all this talk about, you know, gun control, which certainly that's a discussion that needs to happen. But during my visit to Newtown, you know, it was very much a conversation about the children and the families, and you know, the president in his speech tonight, you know, made it personal that way. He talked about the families and people affected by it.
And people definitely needed to hear that tonight, and saying over and over, really hammering to Congress, they deserve a vote. They deserve a vote. The families who've lost loved ones, the victims, the young children, the adults, from Newtown to many other shootings, mass shootings, tragically, that we've had in this country over the past year. He pushed them hard, but to get it to a vote, you need to have consensus on legislation.
That's right. That's
to vote
right.
on. And that's the hard part.
That is the hard part, and it always is the hard part. You know, he did reference there's bipartisan talks going on, but as we've seen in New York, you know, it was passed, but it's not easy. You know, there's all these discussion about violation of Second Amendment rights versus, you know, high ammunition guns and it's certainly not an easy discussion to have, but now is the time to have it, and the president made that front and center.
He certainly did. And how do you think overall he did in this speech? What do you think the marks are going to be? It depends on who you ask,
exactly.
right?
I think if you ask Republicans, I don't think they'll give him a great grade. Democrats will clearly give him a good grade. But he talked about compromise. And I was going into it, I was wondering if he was going to talk about that, because a lot of what goes on in this country, you must compromise. It goes through Congress, and you have to hash it out and discuss and give and
Very
take.
soon we're going to hear the comments from the GOP side. We're going to have sentiments coming from Florida Senator Marco Rubio talking about the GOP response to this speech. And we want to thank Jerry McKinstry for being with us tonight. Thank you for being with us.
Suzanne, thank you.
We certainly want to hear the comments from our viewers as well. You can certainly reach out to us at Twitter, Facebook, news12.com. We want to know what you thought tonight of the president's speech. We will be back with much more full highlights coming up on the night edition. Stay with us.